Hello everyone. So today my video is a little bit differently. I had a request during the holidays from a family member, a friend via family member, asking about some health issues that they had, and so I figured I would answer those questions. They're on my blog, but just in case some people listen to those types of things like while they're driving, they'll have it playing in the background. And so just having an audio version, I thought might be nice for the person that was asking. So the question that I got was asking about the possibility of parasites and possible mold exposure. And just to give a little background on this, I practice more homeopathic remedies rather than the conventional medical branch of treatments. And so, and I am a practitioner for some of those homeopathic remedies, and so I get a lot of questions about that type of thing. One of the more common questions that we get is how to rid ourselves of parasites naturally and things that we can do to reduce the effects of mold, that exist kind of naturally in the environment in our homes. So I did take a little bit of a twist on what I normally would tell clients because my primary goal is to kind of get that quick fix for clients. So, quick changes to their diet, quick changes. Maybe it supplements that they might need, some very simple lifestyle choices. So I kind of deviated from that for this video. So any of my regular clients are going to find this to be a little bit more informational than I usually give. So what I'm going to talk about is the balance that our bodies have between our naturally occurring biomes, microbiomes, and our immune system. So as you know, everybody has a microbiome. We have microorganisms that live in our body. A common thing that you probably have experienced in your life is taking antibiotics and your doctor telling you to make sure that you have some yogurt, kombucha, fermented vegetables, something like that to restore your gut biome. And so we know that these microorganisms live in our body and we know that they're actually beneficial to us. However, sometimes we'll get an excess of those bacteria, fungus, protists, and not so much viruses, but they exist in our bodies too. So sometimes we'll just get an extra amount of them for some reasons that we're going to talk about. And so your body will naturally try to expel those microorganisms as they come up into your body. And the ways that they do that, you'll notice that sometimes you get a runny nose. Or if you wake up with a sore throat, that's just your sinuses kind of draining all of that stuff. Another one is diarrhea, loose stools, mucus in your stools, that type of thing is completely normal. That's your normal biological process, getting rid of just that excess microbiome that you have. The problem is we often immediately think that the runny nose or the diarrhea is us being sick, and then we quick take something for it. So I will get to that later, but that is kind of our normal reaction, and that's our normal physiological reaction. That is society's normal reaction to those symptoms. But the other thing that I want to point out is that around the 1700s, so 1760, the Industrial Revolution began, and about 10 years later, the Chemical Revolution started also. And because of those two pieces, we have been able to mass produce, process, and artificially enhance foods to the point where the foods that we eat today would not even be recognizable from somebody from the early 1700s. So over the past 250 years, generations of people, what is it, like 8 generations now that have passed in 250 years, I can't do math apparently. Generations have been absorbing the chemicals through our skin. We've been inhaling it in the atmosphere and in our homes and our workplaces. And we've also been digesting these chemicals, um, or absorbing them through the digestive tract. And our bodies were never actually designed to process those um, artificial chemicals, specifically the ones that are synthetic chemicals. So I'm just going to kind of put a pin in that, idea of all these chemicals that we have exposure to. And I'm going to give you a very short biology lesson. So my background is science teaching, and this is a lesson that I taught to my students when we were trying to connect two different concepts. First, so the two concepts we're going to talk about are biomagnification and DNA. And biomagnification is a process where chemicals just magnify in your bloodstream. Pretty simple, right? The way this happens, and this is the example I used in my classrooms, is say you have an apple that has been exposed to some chemical. And let's just say that this chemical in small doses is not going to affect you, but in large doses it could be deadly. Say you have a farm full of pigs, and those pigs eat the apples. Now, the pigs are not going to just eat a single apple and then be done. They're going to eat and clean up that apple orchard until all the apples that are on the ground are gone. And that's why we have pigs near an apple tree. They fertilize the soil and then they eat up any of those rotten apples. So then, it's economic. You're not wasting those apples. So that's where biomagnification comes in. So those pigs have eaten more than the recommended daily amount of that chemical, whatever the chemical is. And then that's where it doesn't stop. So most farmers, if they have to call in animals because of mystery illnesses, they're going to eat that animal. And so if you have these pigs that maybe weren't doing so good, maybe they had some other weaknesses, they're going to eat those apples and that's going to magnify in their body. They're going to drop over, mystery illness. The vet's not going to say anything. The people aren't going to say anything. They're just going to eat that pig. It was considered a loss. But now all of those apples that have magnified in the pig are going to transfer to you and your family. And so if you think about a family who, like a farming family, they will have eaten those chemicals their whole life, and that is where we need to talk about DNA. So remember, two completely different lessons that you learn in biology. Biomagnification is talked about in when you're studying ecology. DNA, you study that when you're talking about cell biology and genetics. Those are two separate lessons. For the most part, we don't often make the connection back and forth between the two of them. However, DNA is pretty sturdy molecule. Most of you know deoxyribonucleic acid. It can sometimes mutate normally during the replication process. Sometimes it'll mutate and it has no effect generation upon generation. Sometimes it results in genetic diseases that are, like, early on you can see that the person has a genetic disease. Following our exploration into radioactive elements and those types of things, we found that radiation is another one that's really good at just breaking off chunks of DNA and creating completely unknown, unpredictable results. However, one that we often overlook, especially in textbooks, I very rarely see this, is the exposure to harsh chemicals. And those chemicals today they're everywhere. There's chemicals in our food, as I mentioned. There's chemicals in our homes. So just the paint that's on the walls, the plaster, those types of things. And I'm not talking regular chemicals that would have been available 300 years ago. I'm talking about artificial chemicals that are designed for a very specific purpose. And then we also have the chemicals in the environment. So those environmental chemicals would be an example. Again, we're going to use this pig farming example. So you have a pig farm or any agricultural setting. You have corn and beans and those types of things, and farmers will spray, and so that's in the atmosphere. Cities are far, far worse. There's no break from the chemicals. There's cars driving around all of the time. All of the businesses have exhaust fans that are kind of just releasing mystery chemicals into the atmosphere. Yes, they have scrubbers, but in the same way that biomagnification in small amounts, it's fine. Well, the scrubbers are going to release small amounts of chemicals steadily. And so then it still compounds. So there's chemicals everywhere in our environment. This is not a doom and gloom video. This is just facts. I'm giving you the facts, not that I'm not giving an opinion. We are constantly bombarded by chemicals. And so what this results in is that these children in your family who have been eating poisoned apples for fun and the toxic pork for 18 years might have developed chemical mutations from DNA that are then passed along to their children who might stay on that same farm and eat the same apples and eat the same pork and further mutate their DNA. This is a possibility. It is not known. Obviously, I don't have any evidence, but it seems likely that this could have happened over the years because there are so many chemicals in the environment. So, again, not bringing doom and gloom, solution to the problem. So there's 4 things that I usually recommend when I am talking to clients about reducing reducing the result or the things that happen because of these chemical exposures. So, and again, I'm going to get back to that question. It was about parasites and mold exposure. So the reason that we're going to talk about chemicals is because that provides an opportunity for this microbiome imbalance and this weakness in our immune system. So that's why I'm talking about all of these chemicals, chemical background. So the 4 things that I definitely recommend to my clients is remove avenues for chemical exposure and opportunities for microbiome imbalances. Eat foods that help flush your body of excess chemicals and or microorganisms. Take supplements that make up for foods that you might not have access to. And then the last one is trick your body into thinking there isn't a problem by taking medications. And so if you think about those 4 steps, I'm the kind of person that just does the toughest thing and I just rip off the Band-Aid and I get it done. Some people might not have the discipline to do that. And so there's the second thing, maybe just changing your diet might be all you are able to do right now. The third thing, taking supplements, it is kind of a short-term solution. You're not meant to supplement your diet from healthy foods, but it could be a short-term solution until you can change your diet. And that diet might be a short-term solution until you can start removing chemicals from your house. So these are all short-term solutions depending on how you look at it. And then I do bring in the medications. I don't agree with taking medications. I list an example in my blog of a single situation where I think it would be appropriate, but there's going to be some side effects to that. So let's talk about how you would remove chemicals and or opportunities for that microbiome imbalance. So when I first started my little wellness journey, I went through my whole house and I removed every artificial chemical in my home. So artificially made, man-made chemicals from my home. I went through my bathroom. So all the stuff in my shower, all the stuff, perfumes, lotions, makeup, everything that even with my background in chemistry, if I couldn't define and identify the chemicals that I was putting on my body, it went away. Did the same thing in my kitchen with some of the cleaning supplies, our dishwasher detergent, our hand, like dish soap, laundry soap, bathroom cleaning supplies, everything. Went through, just stripped it all, and switched to mostly plant-based, so not plant-derived, but plant-based products. Obviously, I don't wear makeup. Don't use a whole lot of hair product. I did swap out my lotion for coconut oil just because it's a food source. However, I found that having dry skin is a really good indicator that maybe I need more water in my diet or fat in my diet. Both of those things can be a result of, or can result in dry skin. So I don't actually want to get rid of those indicators that tell me that I'm not getting what I need in my diet. So again, we're trying to balance microbiome. The second thing that I did was, it doesn't even matter which type of microorganism is imbalanced in your body. The fun fact is that they all rely on sugar. So not every single, but most of the biologists that study funguses, bacteria, protists, or even viruses, they use agar plates, which is essentially sugar gel. And they do that to grow stuff on. So that means that all of those microorganisms rely on sugar. And so it's quite easy to eliminate processed sugar from your diet. Physically, it's easy. We all have an emotional attachment to sweet things for other reasons that I will probably describe in a different video. But a lot of fad diets will say, oh, you don't eat cane sugar because it's so heavily processed, but you can have coconut sugar instead. No, it's still sugar. Likewise, maple syrup and honey, still sugar. It's still just processed sugar. So yeah, removing sweets from your diet, tough. It's very tough. Your body will actually go through the equivalent of a drug withdrawal if you ever try to remove sugar from your diet. But just know, if you are trying to reduce some of the effects of mold and parasites, that might be an option. Another one that we often overlook is milled grains or milled vegetables. So that's essentially turning something like wheat into flour, or turning like tapioca into starch. Potato flour is another one. Any of those starchy flours, those turn into sugar in your mouth. You have a chemical in your mouth called amylase. It immediately dissolves the flour in your mouth into straight sugar. So grains, sugars, all they are doing is boosting your microbiome. So that's why I wouldn't recommend them. Whole grains are a little bit different, and that is completely dependent on your body and whether or not you can handle grains. I personally just don't eat grains. Makes it easy, right? I also do consume vegetables though. So vegetables they're full of carbs, but the benefit that I get from the fiber and the phytonutrients is greater than not eating them. There are plenty of diets out there. Carnivore diet, pretty popular, totally doable if you don't need the fiber or those phytonutrients. So there's nothing wrong with a carnivore diet. Our bodies can handle that. But my fun fact is that one time I woke up with the telltale signs of strep throat. So sore throat, the white grossness growing on the back of my throat, couldn't swallow, couldn't talk. I did an experiment because that's what I do. I'm a scientist. I'll experiment on myself. So I did not eat that whole day. All I did was drink water for that whole day. So a 24-hour fast. It was gone the next day. I don't know of any case of strep throat going away that fast. So it was incredibly uncomfortable to be awake and moving around with a sore throat and being hungry all day. But it went away. So I'd rather be uncomfortable for roughly 16 hours than to be stuck with a sore throat, on antibiotics, ingesting more chemicals. So let's see, what else do I have? Another way that I removed chemicals from my diet, organic grass-fed meats, and then organic fruits and vegetables. So that simple thing of removing some of those pesticides, herbicides, even fertilizers, especially chemical fertilizers. Removing that's just another way to remove the chemicals. And those types of things are a little bit more expensive if you're not used to it. So I garden. So a packet of seeds costs $2. You can grow, I have no idea how many squash you could grow from that, but a lot of squash from a single packet of $2 seeds. It would be more than enough food to feed probably a family of 4, just for a whole year of squash. There's just an insane amount of squash that you can grow from that. So again, removing the chemicals from the microbiome or from your body so that that microbiome is not overly enhanced. The second part of that is your immune system, right? So we want to strengthen our immune systems. So our immune system is designed to identify threat. If you are constantly under stress, your body thinks that you're under threat all of the time. So stress is that fight or flight response that we have in our body. If you're always on edge, you're always stressed out, your body is going to assume that something is wrong. And it's not going to respond appropriately when you start eating essentially garbage, these harsh chemicals that you don't need in your body. That is kind of the definition of autoimmunity, because your body sees itself as a threat because there's just so many chemicals in there rolling around. And then, I have no evidence of this, but I would assume the opposite is true. So if you're the kind of person that literally is never stressed ever and everything rolls off of you, your body might not identify anything as a threat. So that could include some types of illnesses like cancerous growths. So I have no evidence to back that up. Again, it's just kind of a reasonable hunch that could be tested, and it would be kind of fun and interesting to see if that's true. But, boosting the immune system. So if your immune system is constantly under attack, you're under stress, try some natural stress relieving techniques. So what I did is talk therapy, very relaxing, daily gratitude practices that helps you remind yourself of the good things that you have going on. Morning meditation, so starting your day in a very peaceful way, nice deep breathing. Personally, I'm a productive walking meditator. That's my cup of joe right there. That's where I live. I love productive walking meditation. Some people, they prefer yoga. Some people prefer prayer. Meditation is a great way to start your day. Also exercising outdoors. Now, a lot of what I've talked about has been, the sugar addiction type thing. That's more on the dopamine side. Exercising outdoors kind of balances your serotonin. So being outside, fresh air, among the trees or the grasses or the river, mountains, whatever environment you live in, that is, it is so good and relieving for your body. So another one that a lot of people don't think about is changing jobs. So I used to have about 2.5 hour commute daily. And so I opted for a job closer to home. So I had one job that was an hour away, and then I drove 45 minutes to a second job, and then a half hour back home every day. So very long day in a car. So quit the second job, moved to closer to home. So I reduced commuter stress. Not that commuter stress is that bad. I actually don't mind driving, but in the winter in Minnesota, it's stressful, especially when schools aren't closing. That's really stressful because I feel like I have to, kill myself to get to work. Another one that I chose was to minimize my lifestyle to reduce financial stress. So a lot of people in the US, we are very much in a consumeristic uh, culture. Everybody has to have lots of stuff, and that costs a lot of money. So if you reduce the amount of stuff that you have, you could reduce financial stress just by having a little bit simpler lifestyle. That's the option I chose. I did set a little bit healthier boundaries with family, friends, coworkers, even the community. Um, and I also deleted social media, so healthy boundaries with the world. I personally don't watch TV, so I've never really been a TV watcher, and I don't own a TV, and I never have, so that hasn't been an issue. But removing those social stressors is really helpful too. So not being wired in all the time and having appropriate boundaries with the people that are physically in my life, that was huge for me. So again, that's what I did. And it sounds really good when you put it all in together, like all the things that I cut out of my life in about a month. Um, that works for me. Like I said, not everybody has the discipline or even the desire to make those types of changes in their lives, especially if they don't have the support of their friends or their family. Those are tough decisions to make. And so then that leads me to the second option. So that's option one. Rip the band-aid off, get all that unhealthy stuff out of your life. You can do it in about a month. I'm pretty sure I did it in about a week. And then then sugar withdrawal, not a fun thing. It's a real thing, but it's not fun. So the second thing that you can do is just try some foods that help naturally drain some of those extra microorganisms from your body. They also kind of boost your immune system naturally. So if if you want to start out small, that's a good option. So things that you could do, and the note that I make is that if you just added some extra vegetables and drank about three quarters of a gallon of water every day, your body would feel about 75% better. So if you're already eating tons of vegetables, then maybe option one is where you need to go. How many vegetables? I personally, maybe not so much anymore because my microbiome is pretty well balanced. I don't get sick a whole lot. But I started out eating 9 cups of different vegetables every single day. So the vegetables that I generally eat: rutabagas, squash, turnips, beets, kale, spinach, parsnips, carrots, cauliflower, broccoli, tomatoes, peppers, onions, and ginger, fresh ginger root. So those are just some examples. A lot of that's heavily dependent on your geography, what's available in your grocery stores. Um, personal taste is not an option. If you are trying to be healthy, you don't get to say, "Oh, I don't like that vegetable." No, tough luck. Eat your vegetables. If you're shorter than me, so I'm about 5'9", so if you're shorter and you're a woman, you would just need a little bit less vegetables. If you're taller than me and you're a woman, maybe a little bit more. If you're a man, doesn't matter your height, it's going to be more than women. So 5'9" man, probably 10 cups of vegetables. So that's a lot of vegetables. Fun fact for men, the more vegetables you eat, the higher your testosterone. So there you go. So along with physical drainage comes emotional drainage. So, and you have your mind is in your head, which is part of your body. There is a mind-body connection. Your body and your mind are not disconnected in any way, and that is not disconnected from the spirit, whatever the spirit is in your world. So, mind, body, spirit. If you have any issues with constipation, this is usually a good telltale sign that you have trouble letting things go. So examples of not letting things go: if you hold a grudge. I am guilty of holding grudges, absolutely hold grudges. Or I used to, I'm not so bad anymore. Another one is fixating on things that are out of your control. Sometimes you just have to let it go. So those two things, if you have troubles with any of those, that's a good sign that you're not letting things go, and you want to let go of emotional, I don't know, garbage, I guess, as well. So talk therapy is, the best way to maybe figure out strategies. I'll sum up some strategies. Journaling, it's so easy. You just get all that crap that's in your head and you write it down. That's the easiest thing to do. Complaining to your friends and family members, that is not a sustainable model. Complaining to random strangers on the internet, not a sustainable model. People on the internet are not going to hold you accountable. Your friends and family will stop talking to you if all you do is complain. So, writing in a journal saves your friendships and all of your relationships. If you just write it in a journal, also, if you're feeling a little bit excited about the idea of possibly improving yourself, you could read your journal entries and look for common threads. Like, do you always complain about the same things in your journal? That would be an example of fixating. So those are the types of things that you could do to have some of that emotional drainage, trying to get some of those, that microbiome imbalance back in balance. Let's see here. Story that I wrote about my journal. It's a hot mess. My journal has story ideas. It has rants about people that annoy me. It has elaborate plans of how I'm going to restructure the educational system in the US. Yeah, elaborate plans that maybe are not realistic, but they go in my journal, and that gets them out of my head, out of my body, and it allows for that drainage to continue to happen. For it, case in point, this blog post actually started as a journal entry. I didn't want to, I was thinking about it while I was driving, got home, quick wrote it down in my journal, and then as I started typing up my blog entry, I realized I honestly know a lot of this stuff from memory. I don't really need that, but it felt really good to just dump it out of my head. So again, we just talked about, we're trying to balance out this microbiome. My method, just rip the Band-Aid off, get all the crap out of your body, crap out of your environment as much as you can. Option 2, maybe eat some extra vegetables, drink some extra water, do a little bit of journaling. Maybe that's too much. Maybe that's too fast for you. So supplements are the next option. It's actually a pretty easy option. So you know that you need more fiber in your diet. So maybe you take a supplement for fiber. Or maybe you know that you have some chemicals in your food, or you're eating chemicals like processed foods. And so maybe you just take a supplement that helps collect those chemicals. So my preference, I have these listed on my blog. I'm not going to put them in this video, but I use 2 supplement companies with my customers. Again, this is not for public knowledge, but one of the supplement companies that I use is, they make real whole food supplements. So for example, one of my favorite supplements, they dry out beef liver, so desiccated beef liver, throw it into a pill, and you eat that. It boosts your liver, boosts digestion, helps your body break down things better. It helps your liver function better so that it can filter out more crap out of your system. It's all around a great supplement. You can do the same thing by just eating liver. However, as somebody who regularly eats liver, I literally have some thawing out on the counter right now today. Most people don't like liver. I get it. It's an acquired taste, but I'm one of those people where I'm just gonna suck it up because it's good for me. I'm gonna eat it. So you can also make, for example, liver. If you don't like the flavor of liver, you can desiccate it yourself. You can just dry it yourself, grind it up, throw it in. They sell little gel capsules, or another one that I've seen is people will cut up the raw liver and shove it into a bigger capsule, and throw it in the freezer, and then they just pop it. So both of those very, very effective at getting those B vitamins. Liver is really, really high in B vitamins. Also high in iron for all my ladies. If you're menstruating, you need iron. Um, if you're older, I don't actually know the chemistry of that. Haven't reached menopause, so I don't know about that. Let's see here. Other supplement that I recommend. Again, I'm not going to give product names, but there are. So if you have exposure to heavy metals, so I grew up having metal fillings in my mouth, so lots of mercury in my mouth, that just left mercury in my system. And so normally, if you have heavy metals in your system or you have a heavy metal exposure, you would go through a process called chelation, and it just pulls the metals from your body. If you try to go to a medical doctor and get chelation, they just will flat out refuse you. They have lowered the standards for the amount of metal that you're allowed to have in your body. In my mind, you should have 0 mercury and lead in your body. Personal opinion. However, because there's so much mercury and lead in our environment, they just tolerate certain thresholds and they don't consider it toxic. So, if you go to a naturopath, they will give you an IV, and I was explaining the process. I did not go through this. This is not the method I used, but give you an IV, and for the next 2 weeks, your life is horrible. It is very painful. That's okay. Some people like that. That would be the equivalent of ripping off the Band-Aid. I already had just ripped off the diet Band-Aid. I was not about to rip off the heavy metals Band-Aid. So instead what I did was the nice and easy way of taking some supplements that have those chelation minerals in them. So it is called, what is the one that I use? Zeolite. I think it's a mineral. It's a volcanic mineral, very porous, and it has this ability to go through your bloodstream and latch on and absorb any heavy metals in your system. It's very cool mineral. If I could go over and do it again, I probably would have just paid for the IV. It took, I think, a couple of years to get the heavy metals out of my system. Yeah, just rip the Band-Aid off and get it over and done with. The last thing I'm going to talk about, so again, we're talking about balancing your microbiome. So you have 3 options. You can either rip the Band-Aid off, get rid of the chemicals in your body. After about a month, you'll feel great. You can change your diet a little, add a little bit more water, and then reduce stress and see if that helps. Third option, supplements. They're going to be a short-term fix. Supplements are not meant to make up for your diet. They are supposed to supplement your diet when you need it. It's not supposed to be a permanent thing. So those are your healthiest 3 options. We live in Medical Central in the US. Everything's all about prescriptions and pharmaceuticals here. So, big, huge problem. I just gave you a lecture on how tough chemicals are on your body. That's all pharmaceuticals are. Artificially derived chemicals. So one of the biggest problems that medications pose is that they tell your body there isn't a problem. So like I said, if I was putting coconut oil on my skin, my body is trying to say, hey, you're not getting enough water, you're not getting enough fat in your diet. Maybe try putting stuff into our body. Coconut oil it's fine because my body will absorb the coconut oil. It'll absorb that fat. But the idea is to actually get the things that you need in your diet first. So, but yeah, medications, a lot of them are designed to calm your natural fight or flight response. So then your body just ends up storing those chemicals indefinitely. Your body has no idea what these chemicals are. They're just storing them because your body is too chill to relax or to get rid of them. Sometimes medications might appear necessary, like fighting a bacterial infection. Well, I just gave an example of me having strep throat. If you just fast for a day, it might go away. Caveat, if you don't have sugar in your diet, it goes away in a day. If you got a strep throat right now today and you're on a grain or sugar-based diet, there's plenty of food in your system for it to live off of. Other medications also might appear harmless. So, for example, if you take a pill that relieves a headache. So the problem is the headache is trying to tell you something that is really important about your body. So it could be like maybe there's a chemical imbalance in your body. So the good chemicals, your natural chemicals. So that would be your water. Are you dehydrated? Probably if you have a headache. Oxygen levels. Maybe there's a serious problem with the air around you and you're not getting oxygen. That headache is a good indicator. Sugar imbalances. So we have glucose levels in our body. Maybe your sugar is off for something that you ate. That's important to know. And it's important to know how to rebalance that. Salt, hugely important, especially if you're like me, outdoors, hiking a lot. You want to have your salt balanced. One thing that I have is headaches are a good indicator of air quality for me. So one of those sensitive populations where if I wake up with either sinus pain, sore throat, stuff like that, almost always, or headache, almost always it's air quality. So just some of those environmental chemicals that we have exposure to. However, I am not completely heartless. I'm just a lot, just mostly, but not completely heartless. Worst case scenario, I would agree there are times when people need pharmaceutical medications. So, friend of mine just received burns on 70% of his body. He is in a drug-induced coma for good reason. That would hurt. That would be horrible. The problem is he is going to be recovering from these burns probably for the next 2 years of his life. Well then, but he's going to be on pain medication too for the next 2 years. And so then as he starts to wean himself off of those medications, he's going to have to contend with all of those chemicals that were in his body. And yes, healing from the burns is the first priority, but he's going to be in for a bumpy road because he's going to have to go off of those medications. And then further on, he's going to have to get rid of those chemicals, which means changing his diet and lifestyle. That's a huge, long, lengthy process. I wouldn't be able to go through it without medications, probably. So, I know that that's one of those rare cases, but there's no other reason. Another problem is that medications just in general have become a permanent fixture in our lives. So if you go into a doctor for tummy problems, they'll tell you that you have gastric reflux and that you're going to need to be on medications for the rest of your life, and they give you your prescription. Problem. Gastric reflux is just a reaction that tells you that you have an acid imbalance in your tummy, nothing more. It does tell you that you probably should change your diet. That's it. So change your diet. It's simple solution. It's not easy, but it's simple. I personally would rather just not eat sugar and grains and not have to deal with gastric reflux rather than being on a medication for the rest of my life. Now, those medications also wear off in effectiveness. I think I was on, when I stopped taking medications, I think it was on 4 separate digestive tract medications. So 2 were acid reflux, maybe it was 4. 4 were constipation related. That's 6 digestive tract medications that I did not need to be on. All I had to do was change my diet. So again, this post turned out to be a little bit of a rant. This video way longer than I intended, so apologize for that. But the bottom line is still the same. So it doesn't matter what type of issue you're having. If you're concerned about parasites, if you're concerned about mold exposure, the first step is to look inside of you first. Look inside of what's going on in your body. What kinds of chemicals is your body routinely being exposed to? And I'm talking the artificial chemicals, the man-made chemicals, not the naturally existing chemicals that have been around for thousands of years. And is it possible to either reduce or eliminate those artificial synthetic chemicals from your life, or at least, bare minimum, flush them from your system? I know that the temptation is when you have those types of parasites, mold exposure, illnesses, any of that, I know that the temptation is to just take something that will make it go away. That's a temporary solution that just introduces more chemicals that your body has to fight. Some chemicals have been made popular by the media following the events of 2020, and that they're still chemicals, they're still pharmaceuticals. I'm not going to list any names, but the popular antiparasitic that was an alternative to vaccinations, that's still a pharmaceutical. Both of them are pharmaceuticals. So my recommendation is to not add more artificial or synthetic chemicals to your body in an effort to temporarily relieve a symptom that is based on poor diet and or lifestyle choices. That's all I have for my little rant. If you have any questions, please let me know, and I'll see you later.